morning, my dear students. Welcome back to our biology class. How are you all? I hope you are fine and safe at home. Today we are going to learn our next chapter, that is chapter 6 from your textbook. The name of the chapter is Tissues. Chapter 6 in your textbook, science text. The name of the chapter is Tissues. Students, take your textbook, page number 68. So, Bishan in 1792 coined the term tissues, and the study of tissues are called histology. What is histology? The study of tissues are called histology. And I hope you must learn that what are tissues. Tissues are a cluster of cells that are grouped together to achieve a particular function. In a simple word, we can say a tissue is formed a cluster of cells that are similar in structure and work together to achieve a particular function. When we talk about tissues, before we get into that, let's try to see what is the role of tissues. Now, in our previous lesson, we learned about the fundamental unit of every living organism, that is cell. And we talked about the fact that the cell is the structural and functional unit of every living organism when we see around us. Okay, so there are two broad categories of living organism, that are unicellular organism made up of one cell, and on the other hand, multicellular organism made up of many cells. So, most of the living organisms that we see around us, like plants, animals, humans, birds, fishes, etc. So, not all animals, some animals we see around like cat, dog, cow, goat, elephant, like that. These all animals are multicellular organisms that are made up of many cells, isn't it? So, thus two broad categories of organism depending upon the number of cells which constitute that organism, right? Now, if we think about this point that in the case of unicellular organism, that single cell perform all the basic functions which are needed for that organism to survive. For example, we need food and we need energy to work. We need some system or processes to digest the food, to excrete the undesirable food, right? So these are the some basic necessities that every organism. Now, in unicellular organism, that single cell sometimes acts as digestive system, and sometimes that single cell acts as the excretory system. Sometimes that single cell, the system of which intake of food, like that. So, in that single cell, the one cell itself perform all the functions within that unicellular organism, like amoeba, paramecilia, euglena, like that. That all we discussed in previous chapter. And what happens in multicellular organism? So students, in multicellular organism, there are millions and millions of cells. That means division of labor shown in multicellular organism. There are group of cells. The cells form many groups, and these group of cells perform the specific function. We know that inside our body there are many systems. Digestive system helps to digest the food, excretory system to excrete undesirable food, respiratory system helps in respiration, circulatory system to transport blood, nervous system to carry the messages, so like that. So different type of system perform their own job inside our body, right? So this group of cells are known as tissues that we are going to study about this chapter. Initially we talked about the cell, which was the basic building block. Now we are talking about the group of cell, that is tissues. So every living organism are made up of cells, and every living organism consists of tissues. Is it clear? I hope you understood what are tissues. Definition is given in your textbook, the tissue. So you underline a group of cells that are similar in structure and work together to achieve a particular function forms a tissue, that you marked here. Now students, can you say some examples of tissues present in our body? Yes, blood, muscles, bone. These are some tissues present in our body, and we are going to study about details in tissues that are present both plants and animals. The cells which are specialized in a function are grouped together and form a tissue. We have different tissues in our body that perform different functions, like they play the role of protection. They help in control and coordination. They help in transportation. They act as insulators. And also a lot of other functions are performed these tissues. Understood? Students, now the level of organization. The level of organization we also discussed in the previous chapter. Again, we want to recall the level of organization. Let's say this.
The very first level of formation of an organism is the cell, which is the basic building block of living organism, right? The next level is tissue. That means when cells group together to perform a specific function, they are tissues. Now, what happens to the tissues? The tissues again group together to form something known as organ. So here, if you look at the diagram, or if you take this example, for example, in the first picture you see just one cell. Now many such small cells will join together and they will form something like this tissue. Now these tissue, this is a lung tissue, the picture which I have shown here. Now these lung tissues, they actually join together, they'll group together and they will form the organ. Organ means they'll form this lung. So the lung is actually made up of the lung tissue, right? Now these organs will finally join together to form an organ system. For example, the lungs. So the lung is just one organ. Now similarly, you will have many different organs and those organs will join together to form an organ system. For example, here I have shown you the respiratory system. So here if you see, this is the respiratory system. What is respiratory system? The system which actually helps us in respiration. Respiration means breathing. So we take in oxygen and we give out carbon dioxide. I hope all of you know how important is that. If we stop breathing, we will stop living, right? So that means the lungs then together form the lung, not only the lungs, many such organs like lungs, they come together and they form an organ system. For example, if you look at the digestive system is an organ system and it has many different organs. For example, it has the stomach, it has the small intestine, it has the large intestine, right? So similarly, if you look at some other system, for example, if you look at the ingestion system, so the system which helps us in intake of food, you have the mouth, you have the teeth, right? So you have different organs which actually make up the organ system, and these organ systems together make up the organism. For example, the digestive system, the excretory system, the respiratory system. So all these systems together make up the human body. So not only the human beings, every living organism, whether it is a cat, a dog, an elephant, a monkey, everybody has different organ systems inside their body. Those organ systems are actually made up of different organs like kidney, lung, heart, right? And those organs are made up of tissues and those tissues are made up of cells. So this is the level of organization of any living organism. So in this lesson, we will be concentrating on tissues.
Okay students, is it clear now? Now let me ask you a question, that every living organism have similar kind of tissues? Yes, the answer is no. If we take a closer look to the plants and animals, you will see that noticeable differences between these two. Let us see what are the differences between these two. Both plants and animals have similar life processes. However, they do not have similar type of tissues because of the differences in the organization, mode of living and lifestyle. Plants are stationary or fixed. They don't move. Most of the tissues they have are supportive, which provides them with structural strength. Most of these tissues are dead. Since these dead cells can provide mechanical strength as easily as live ones, and also plants needs less maintenance. But animals on the other hand move around in search of food, mates and shelter. They consume more energy as compared to plants, and most of the tissues contained are living. So the animal tissues, most of the tissues are living, but in plant tissues most of them are dead cells. And another difference between plants and animals in the pattern of growth. The growth in plants is limited to certain region, while this is not so in animals. Right? Plants continue to grow throughout their life, but animals stop growing after becoming mature. So for continuing growth, plants possess some tissues in specific regions of the body. Okay, that way we will discuss. And about the structural organization of both. In having organ and organ system, the structural organization of animal is far more specialized and localized as compared to plants. It is due to this mobility and different feeding methods of animals. Now, it is with reference to these complex animal and plant bodies that we will now talk about the concept of tissues in some detail. So, some tissues in plants that divide throughout their life. These tissues are localized in certain regions. Based on the dividing capacity of this tissue, various plant tissues can be classified as growing or meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. So, which are the two type of plant tissues? Meristematic tissue or growing tissue and permanent tissue. So, plant tissue are classified into two: meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. Right? So, students, firstly, let us study about meristematic tissue. Meristematic tissue. They divide continuously throughout life and help in increasing the length and girth of the plant. Understood? So, these tissues divide continuously throughout the life. These tissues have the potential to divide and form new cells, and it helps increasing the length and girth of the plant. And this meristematic tissue is also called meristem. What is meristem? Its cells are called meristematic cells. And the region where meristem is present can function as growth region. A new cells produced by a meristem and initially like the meristematic cell, and slowly they grow and differentiate and to mature new components of various other tissue that may become permanent. So this tissue, what are the features? Let's see the features. They have thin cellulose cell wall. They have the cells are small. That means thin cell wall is cellulosic and thin and elastic. And the second feature, the meristematic cells may be spherical, oval, polygonal, or rectangular in shape. And the meristematic cells are compactly arranged. These cells are very compactly or tightly arranged. That means there are intercellular spaces. Intercellular spaces are absent in meristematic tissue. Intercellular spaces means the space inside two cells. There is a gap or space between two cells that is absent. So there is no intercellular spaces. They are very tightly arranged. The next feature, each meristematic cell contains a dense or abundant cytoplasm and a single large nucleus. So there is a dense cytoplasm and the nucleus is very large. And the next feature, the meristematic cells contain a few vacuoles or no vacuoles at all. So in meristematic tissues, vacuoles are absent, or if it is present, very few in number. So students, these are the main characteristic features of meristematic tissue study. Not the point. And let's see how these tissues look like and what are the different types. So students, based on the region where they are present, meristematic tissue again classified into 3 types. This is very important. So you will learn well. Okay, which are the 3 types of meristematic tissue? First one is apical meristem, and the second one is lateral meristem, and third type is intercalary meristem. Once again I repeat, first type is apical meristem, and second type is lateral meristem, and third one is intercalary meristem. So these are the 3 type of meristematic tissue. And let's see the diagram. Look at this diagram. This is the picture of meristematic tissue, and the first type, apical meristem, that is present on the growing tip of stem and root. And next is intercalary meristem. Second type, this intercalary meristem, it is a meristem that at the base of the leaves or internodes. And next one is lateral meristem. This girth of the stem, girth or means width, girth of the stem or root increases due to this lateral meristem. So these are the 3 types of meristematic tissue or growing tissue. And let's study one by one. So first one is apical meristem. So first one is apical meristem. It occurs at the growing tip of stem and roots, and depending upon its occurrence at a root or stem tip, it is called root apical meristem and stem or shoot apical meristem. And this apical meristem mainly produces the growth in length of root and stem, and the main function of this apical meristem, it is increase in the height of the plant. Understood? It is present in the growing tip of stem and roots, and it increases the length of the stem and the root. So it is the main function is it increase in the height of the plant. So that is the feature and function of apical meristem. And the next one is intercalary meristem. It occurs in intermediate position at the base of leaves, base of internodes, example in some grasses. So intercalary meristem helps in growth of leaves and internodes, and it upward bending of larger shoots is due to this activity of intercalary meristem. So the main function is it increases the number of branches. Understood? So it is located at the base of the leaves or internodes, and the main function is to increase the number of branches. Okay. And the third one is lateral meristem. It occurs on the sides both in stem and root. So these are found beneath the bark of the plant, and it's two types, vascular cambium and cork cambium. So vascular cambium produces the secondary vascular tissue, and the cork cambium produces the protective cork on the outside of the plant. And the main function is helps increasing the diameter. So lateral meristem increases the girth of stem and root. Girth means width. So girth of the stem and root, it increases lateral meristem. That means it helps in increasing the diameter of the plant. Okay, so is it clear? Thus three type of meristematic tissue: apical meristem, intercalary meristem and lateral meristem. So this is one of the important topic. This meristematic tissue is one of the important topic in this lesson. So note it down and learn. Okay. So the next type of permanent tissue that we will discuss in the next class. Now students, take a textbook and underline the important points that we discussed today. Tissue. What is a tissue? A group of cells that are similar in structure and work together to achieve a particular function form a tissue. And a meristematic tissue. See this meristematic tissue. The growing tissue, the dividing tissue known as meristematic tissue. And the three types of meristematic tissue is given here: apical meristem, lateral and intercalary, and the diagram is given here. And the function and the feature, the function is given in this paragraph. So mark this and to move on to the next page. The feature: the cell of this tissue very active, and they have dense cytoplasm, thin cellulose walls and prominent nuclei. They lack vacuoles. And can we think why they would lack vacuoles? So why do meristematic cells lack vacuoles? So the vacuoles, we learned about vacuoles in the previous chapter. The meristematic, we know that meristematic cells divide frequently to give rise to form new cells. So they need dense cytoplasm and a soft cell wall. So vacuoles, what is the main function of vacuoles? Vacuoles are full of cell sap and they provide turgidity and rigidity to the cell. So that's why this meristematic tissue lack vacuoles. Understood? So mark this and study.
Okay students, that's all about today's class. It is a time to wind up our today's class. Please go through the chapter and underline all the important points and read the textbook. I hope you understood the topic very well, and we will see more about in the next class. Thank you.